Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
So now we've created our plan and we've added some members, it's time to start adding tasks to our plan. I'm going to add quite a few tasks here. I'm going to do some of them on camera and some of them off camera because I think after you've seen this a few times, you get the idea and it's fairly straightforward. Now the first thing to take a look at here is that we have a default bucket, and a bucket is just a way to group different tasks together. And you can see my default bucket here is to do. So effectively I would probably list under here all of the tasks that are still on my to-do list to action. But of course we can create our own buckets in order to organize our tasks in a more logical way. And we're going to take a look at adding buckets a little bit later on. The first thing to do here is to really just get some tasks into our plan. Now notice underneath to do, it says add task. So let's click on this and I get a very simple little pop-up window. So the first thing I need to do is enter a task name. So this task is going to be user testing on custom office ribbons. I can then set a due date. So let's click on set due date and we're going to say that this needs to be done. We're going to give them, let's give them a month to do this. So we'll say that it needs to be done by the 5th of September. And I can then choose if I want to assign this task to somebody else. Now at the moment, I'm not going to assign this to anybody else. I'm simply going to click on add task. So that is the simplest way to get a task very quickly into your plan. Now there is a lot more detail that we can add here, and we'll take a look at that in the next lesson when we talk about editing task details. For the time being, I just want to get some tasks into this plan. So let's add another task. This is going to be deployment Europe. Let's set a due date. That's going to be at the start of October. So let's say the 3rd and add the task. So I'm not doing anything particularly detailed here. I'm simply just getting these task names into the plan. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to add quite a few more tasks into this plan. And then in the next lesson, we're going to take a look at how we can edit the tasks and start adding a lot more detail to make these tasks a bit more meaningful and interesting. In the last lesson, I showed you how to add very basic tasks into your plan. And what I've done off camera since the last time we spoke is I've added quite a few different tasks to this particular plan. So I've probably got about 10, 15 or so in here. And I simply just added these directly into the plan and assigned due dates. I haven't assigned them to any team members and I haven't added any task details. So what we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to take a look at how we can edit our task details once we've added them to the plan. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now notice I have this little scroll arrow just here. Now if I'm clicked sort of outside of this to-do area and I try and use the scroll wheel on my mouse to scroll through, it doesn't actually work. You have to have your mouse over the actual list of tasks in order to see that scroll bar. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now if I want to edit this task that we have right at the bottom here, I can simply click on it to open up the full detail window. So at the top here I can see the name of the plan, I can see the name of the task. I can also see the due date, which is the only thing that I assigned to this task when I added it to the plan. So let's take a look at the types of information that we can add into each task. Now obviously at the top here we have an assign button, and when I click this I can see all of the members of the plan and I can choose different people to assign this task to. So it's simply a case of selecting them from this list. Now it's worth noting at this stage, if you try and assign a task to somebody who isn't a member of this plan, you can do it. You can simply type in their email address and it's going to send them a link. Now when they click on the link, it's going to take them to this plan and that will essentially make them a member of the plan. So just bear that in mind if you need to add a non-member to a plan. Now, on this particular task, user testing on custom office ribbons, well, Ben is in charge of that. So I'm going to assign this task to Ben and also to Jack, who's on the same team as Ben. So I can simply select them and now I can see them at the top. Now we can also add labels to help us categorize our tasks. We'll talk more about that a bit later on. We can assign tasks to buckets. Now currently I only have one bucket, so when I click the drop down it just says to do, and currently I just have all of my tasks listed in the to do column. Now that's not going to be the most efficient way to manage my tasks. I will want to group them into different buckets, but I haven't created any buckets yet, so we're going to do that a bit later on. I can see the progress is currently not started. And if I click the drop down, I have three options in here: not started, in progress, and completed. And of course, we can change these depending on what the status is of this particular task. Currently, this task has not been started. The priority of this task is medium, but I do have some other options. So maybe this is something which is very low priority. I can indicate that. Or maybe it's something that urgently needs to be done. I can indicate that from here as well. Now for this particular task, we're just going to leave it on the default, which is medium. I can add a start date. So we have a due date, but we don't have a start date. So the due date is the 5th of September. So I'm going to click this little drop down here and we're going to say user testing starts next week, so the 15th. And then I can add some notes. So I've just added a quick note. We're going to commence user testing on custom office ribbons to gain important feedback for the development team. And what I can do here is I can choose to show this note actually on the card, so I don't have to open up the task in order to be able to see those notes. So let's say show on card. And then underneath here, we have a checklist. Now, what exactly is this? Well, it's really very similar to creating subtasks. So this overall task, user testing, might have various different steps which are in themselves mini tasks. So I can add these checklist items in here so that I can keep track of those as well within this task. So if we click here on checklist, for the user testing, I might have a couple of other checklist items. So I might need to remember to complete the phase 1 user testing spreadsheet. Let's hit enter to add another subtask. I'm going to say we need to remember to feed back the issues to the development team. And I could carry on going. These are separate tasks in themselves. And of course, if I want to, I can also show those on the card so that they're visible. Now notice, as soon as I select show on card for the checklist items, the notes show on card checkbox becomes deselected. So we can only show one or the other. So I'll leave that for you to determine which information is more important for you to see at a glance. So I want to see the checklist items. Let's click show on card, and then I can add any attachment. So if I want to attach maybe the phase 1 user testing spreadsheet, I could do that. I can attach a Word document, a PDF, anything I like. And then finally at the bottom here, I have a space where I can just add any further comments. Now notice here, if I add comments, and I'm just going to say, please provide detailed feedback, notice we have a send button just here. So if I click send, that's going to send it through in the form of a conversation below. So I can see exactly what everybody is doing. So because this task is going to be assigned to Ben and to Jack, they can keep me as the project leader in the loop by adding different comments down the bottom here, so I can follow the conversation and see any issues that arise. So really nice and straightforward. So let's close this down by clicking the cross at the top and take a look at our card now. So we have our title at the top, and then we can see those checklist items. I can also see on the contact card who this is assigned to, and also it indicates to me that this particular task has comments. So if I click on this, it's going to open it up and I can scroll straight down to the comments section. So that is how you edit a task. There are a few things in there that we haven't looked at yet, but we're going to look at those in the coming lessons. I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some more information to all of these tasks off camera, and I'll join you in the next lesson. So in the last lesson, we took a look at how we could edit task details and add a little bit more information into each task. So what I've done off camera is I've gone through each of the tasks that we have in this list, and I've just added some start dates to them. I've assigned team members, and I've added checklist items where required. So we're starting to look pretty good here. So what we're going to take a look at in this lesson is how we can organize this big long list a little bit more effectively, making our tasks easier to see by adding buckets. Now, before we do that, I just want to scroll all the way down to the bottom and highlight something to you. So if we take a look at this very first task in the list, notice that the date in the corner is showing in red. So you're going to see this whenever a task has gone past its due date. So if you take a look at this task was due for completion on August the 2nd, and it's now August the 8th. So this task is effectively overdue. So it's a really good idea to keep your eye on any tasks which have gone over their due date, because that could have consequences for the rest of your project plan. Now, if you just want to see a list of all of the overdue tasks, this is where we can use one of our filters. So all the way over in the top right hand corner, we have a little filter drop down here, and notice one of the filters I have is late. So if I click on late, it's only going to show me those tasks that have gone past their due date. So filter is a really great way of picking out of a big long task list only the items that you want to see. Now I'm going to clear that filter to put all of my tasks back, because the other way that we can make our tasks easier to see is by organizing them a little bit more effectively than we're currently doing here. So at the moment, all of the tasks that I've added have gone into the default bucket of to do, but you can add your own custom buckets. You don't even have to have the to do bucket just here. We can click in it, and then we can change the name of this bucket by simply updating this text. Also notice when I hover over the bucket name, I get these 3 dots. If I click on this, it's going to give me some more options. Again, I can rename it, or I can delete the bucket entirely. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that if you have lots of tasks within your bucket, because it's going to delete all of those as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 more buckets and organize our tasks. So where it says add new bucket, let's click on this link, and this first one is going to be for all the tasks related to the software deployment. I'm going to add another new bucket, and this one is going to be for all of the admins surrounding this deployment. Let's add another one specifically related to the training. And then finally, we'll have another bucket for anything related to issues and feedback. So very simple to create our different buckets. So now all we need to do is organize our tasks into these different buckets. And we do this by dragging and dropping. So let's start right at the bottom, because this was the first task that we added. User testing, that comes under deployment. So let's drag and drop it to this bucket. We then have the 3 software deployments for the different regions. So we're going to put those in here as well. Creating the issues spreadsheet, well, that's going to go in the issues section. So I'm just going to drag this all the way over to here. And remember, you do have a horizontal scroll bar if you need it. Another issue reporting workflow, well, that's going to go underneath issues as well. Assigning training team leads and team members, well, those both come under admin. So let's drag both of those. Booking the training dates is also admin, as is organizing the venues and locations, and also booking the travel arrangements. And the final 3 here relate to the actual training that's taking place for this deployment of new software. So these are all going to go in the training bucket. Once again, we are just simply dragging and dropping. So now effectively, I have nothing in my to-do list. Now we could simply go in and just remove this to-do list, but I would recommend that you do keep this there. So as new to-do items come up, you've got a log of them just here, and then you can assign them where necessary. So this is a really nice way of just visualizing all of the tasks that you have going on in this project plan in a more logical way. Notice in the top right-hand corner, I'm currently grouping my tasks by bucket. I could group them by assigned to, and I get a completely different look just there. Or maybe I want to group them by their due dates instead. So I can see here tasks that are late and tasks that are in the future. So lots of different ways that you can group your different tasks together. Now I'm going to switch mine back to bucket. Also remember, we have a filter drop down just here where we can filter by bucket as well. So if I expand this, I can filter for just the tasks that I have within the training bucket. And it's basically going to clear everything else out so I get a clean view of just the tasks that I'm interested in. So always remember to clear your filter if you want to put everything back again. And the final point to mention here, and this isn't really a bucket, but it is a very quick way of just seeing all of the tasks that have been assigned to you. Remember, over on the left-hand side, we have an Assign to Me link. So when I click this, it's going to show me all of the tasks where I am one of the assignees. So you can see there's my little profile picture on each of the task cards. And these are grouped by not started, in progress, and completed. Of course, I can group these by something else, by plan, by due date, so on and so forth. And what you're seeing in here are also tasks that don't necessarily belong to this plan. So I'm grouping by due date for all tasks assigned to me, regardless of the plan. If I was to select plan in this group by dropdown, I then get to see the tasks assigned to me in two separate plans. So the team task is for the Northwind Traders project plan, and then I have my tasks for the 365 rollout. So don't forget about that little Assign to Me section if you just want to see everything where you need to take action. So now we have our tasks assigned nicely into buckets. Let's take a look at how we can update the task status. So let's use this first card in the deployment bucket as an example. This is the one that's currently overdue. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the card to open it up and edit the details. Now, when it comes to the task status, this is what we're talking about here, the progress of this task. So by default, it's going to say not started. Now this task is currently late and it should have started on the 1st of August. But maybe both Ben and Jack have just been a little bit slack and they have actually started this task, but they've just forgotten to update the contact card. So what they could do is come into here and just change the task status. So let's click the drop down and we're going to say that this task is now in progress. And because it's late, what I might do here is I might then come into this card and say, right, okay guys, this is now urgent because it should have been finished already. So I can simply change these two drop downs, click on close, and now you can see those changes reflected on the contact card. This little icon here denotes that this task is currently in progress, and I can see this little bell icon which tells me that it's urgent. And of course, if I just want to see all the tasks that I've marked as urgent, I can use my filter drop down. I can go to the priority section and I can filter by urgent tasks. So it's just showing me this one because all of my other tasks are on medium priority. So this filter option is really good for really pulling out of a large task list exactly what you're looking for. Now, how do we complete a task? Well, there's a few different ways that we can do this. So once again, let's jump back into this user testing card. Now remember, we have a couple of subtasks related to this main task. And if I take a look at the checklist at the bottom, I can see here we've got two subtasks that need to be completed before this task is considered to be complete. So maybe I've already completed the phase 1 user testing spreadsheet. I could mark this subtask as complete simply by clicking in the circle just here. And you can see now it says checklist 1 of 2. So 1 item has been completed, 1 is outstanding. So how does that affect what we see on the contact card? Let's close this down. And I can see here this little checklist item is telling me 1 of 2 checklist items are complete. So let's go back into this card and I'm going to check off the second checklist item. So I can see here that both of the checklist items are complete. If I close this down, despite the fact that both items are complete, the overall task is still in progress. So don't be confused by that. Some people think that by simply completing all of the checklist items means that the overall task is going to be complete. But that's not the case. You either have to check this little check mark next to the main task, notice that the progress in the middle has changed to completed, or you need to change it manually from the drop down in the middle. So now when I close this down, you can see that that task has just disappeared from the deployment bucket. And right at the bottom, I have a completed tasks option. If I expand this out, it's going to show me all of the tasks that I've marked as complete. So completed tasks are not removed from the system. You can still see them and refer back to them if you need to. So I'm going to go through the rest of the tasks in this plan, and I'm going to update their progress and complete them where necessary. So join me in the next lesson once I've done that. Following on from the last lesson, I've been through all of the tasks that we currently have on the plan, and I've just updated the progress and also the priority for some of these. So notice here in the deployment bucket, I've marked all of these as in progress, and I've also marked these as important tasks. Now, most of these other tasks haven't begun yet, so they're still marked as not started, apart from these ones in the issues feedback bucket. These ones are urgent and they are also in progress. So you can see here, simply by just looking at these cards, we get quite a lot of information. We can pretty much see everything that we've attributed to this particular task on the front of the card. Now, if you recall, when we were looking at editing the task details, something that we can also do is add attachments. And this can be useful to provide additional documentation or maybe additional information that is relevant to the particular task. For example, if we click on the Deployment Asia card, just to open that up, one of the checklist items in here is that we need to prepare the help desk in the Asia region to deal with all of the calls that they're going to get once the new software has been deployed to all staff members in that region. So maybe we've put together some kind of document and a workflow that's going to help them with this. And it's a really good idea to attach these documents to the task so that they have everything that they need in one place. Now, if we scroll down, notice we do have an attachment section. So all we need to do is click on Add Attachment, and then we can choose where to attach the document from. So if you have the file on your computer, that's pretty easy to do. We can also attach files that we have stored in Teams, or we can just simply add a link to a URL. So if you have a document maybe stored on your intranet site that you want to refer to, you can simply grab the URL and add that in here as well. Now, I've got a document that I've got saved off to my computer, so let's click on From Computer. I'm going to navigate to the correct folder, and this is the one we want here, the deployment checklist. And this is just a dummy Word document, so there's not actually any real information in there. This is just an example to show you how this works. So let's select it and click on Open, and it will take a couple of seconds to upload. You can see that it actually uploads to SharePoint. So if I hover my mouse over, it now becomes part of a SharePoint document library. And if I want to, I could choose to show this on the card instead of the checklist. So let's tick that little box there. And then when we close this down, you can see what that looks like. So now I get a preview of the actual document as opposed to those checklist items. Now, I don't particularly like how this looks, so I'm going to click back on this and I'm going to say I want to show the checklist items as opposed to the attachment. Let's close this down. So now I can't see the actual contents of the attachment, but again, I have a little icon here which shows me that there is one attachment on this card. So once again, we can pretty much see all the information we need just at a glance. Let's go in and attach another document. So I'm going to scroll across, and for this task just here, create issues spreadsheet. Well, maybe I've already done that and I want to add it to this card. Once again, I'm going to click on Add Attachment, From Computer, and I'm going to select Issues Spreadsheet, click on Open. I'm not going to show it on the card. I'm simply going to close that down. And then the final attachment I'm going to attach to this next task, create issue reporting workflow diagram. Let's click on this. Once again, I'm going to add the attachment from my computer. And this time I'm going to select the PDF, click on open, and then close that card down. So really nice and simple to attach documents. Now, as I mentioned when we were uploading these documents, they actually get stored in SharePoint. So this is probably a really good time just to show you how it integrates with SharePoint Online. So if we go up to the top of the screen where we have board, charts and schedule, also notice we have 3 dots. So this is where we can kind of go to keep track of any conversations that we're having in this plan, the members, the files, if we've got any shared notebooks, and also any sites. Now, because I've just uploaded 3 files, those are uploaded to SharePoint, and if I want to see those in the SharePoint library, I can simply click on Files. It's going to open up a new browser window and effectively jump me across to SharePoint, where notice I have a Microsoft 365 Phase 1 Global Rollout SharePoint site created. And this was done automatically when I created the plan in Planner. So this is how everything integrates together. So I basically have a SharePoint site set up for me, and I haven't really had to do anything. I've just added the plan in Planner. Notice that now I'm clicked on Documents, I can see all of the files that I have attached to any of my tasks in the plan. The same thing if I was to click on Conversations, that's going to jump me across to Outlook. And what we can see in here are any conversations that have taken place within any of the tasks. If you recall, in the comments section of one of the tasks, I just added a sentence that said, please provide detailed feedback. And so I can now see that in my Microsoft 365 group within Outlook. So everything is really integrated and ties together. So just be aware of that as well when you're working on your tasks in Planner. If you've ever worked with color categories in Microsoft Outlook to categorize your email, then you're going to find labels in Microsoft Planner very similar. We can create different color categories or labels and assign them to tasks. This allows us to group tasks in a more visual way, makes them easier to see because all tasks of the same color label will be of the same type, and we can also easily filter by labels as well. So let's take a look at how we add labels. So I'm going to open up this first card here in the deployment bucket. So let's click to open it. Now notice at the top it says add label. And if I click on this, we have a whole bunch of default colors for our labels. So again, this is very similar to Outlook color categories. If you haven't customized the labels, you're just going to get these color names listed here. Now, obviously, these aren't particularly meaningful. You can use them if you want to, but it's much better to rename each of these labels so that they make sense to you. So let's rename a few of these. I'm going to click on the pen icon, and now I can easily rename this. So we're going to give this one the label of deployment. I'm going to edit the next one, and we'll call this admin. The next one is going to be training, and the next one is going to be issues. So I've basically added a colored label for all of the different buckets that I have. What I'm also going to do here is I'm going to add some more labels for the region. So we have the European region, we have North America, and we also have Asia. And of course, I could carry on going. So now, because this task is related to the deployment for the Asia region, I'm going to add 2 labels to this task. We're going to say deployment, and also we're going to categorize it as Asia. And let's click on close. Once again, I can see those categories assigned on the contact card. If I go to this one just here, the assign training team leads, and click to open, I'm going to add a different set of categories. So this is related to admin. It's also related to training. So let's add the training label. And this really covers all regions, so I don't need to add anything else. Let's click on close, and there we go. So I'm going to go through the rest of these cards, and I'm just going to add labels to each of them. So there we go. I've added labels to every single card that we have in this plan. Now that I have these labels assigned, it makes it more visual. I can see by color things that are kind of related, and it means that I can also do things like group my tasks by their label or filter the tasks based on their label. So if we jump up to the top right hand corner and click the filter drop down first of all, take a look, we have a label section just here. So if I click to expand, it's going to show me all of the labels that I've added. So if I just want to see everything that's related to the North America region, I can simply click on that label and it's going to show me everything outstanding for North America. So really nice and straightforward. I can also choose to group them by their labels instead. So if we choose labels, now you can see the column headings are deployment, admin, training, and I have all of the tasks related below. So a couple of different ways there that we can organize our cards. Now currently, up until this point, we've been working mainly in board view. And board view is where we have this kind of card view. But take a look at charts. Let's click on charts at the top here. Don't forget that you have this. It shows you sort of different statistics about your plan. So in this status chart, I can see what's not started, what's in progress, what's late, and what's completed. And I can see that in a chart form by bucket as well. I also get a chart related to the priority, and I can see how many tasks are assigned to different members in a bar chart as well. So lots of different pieces of information we can get about our current plan. I can also see all of my tasks in handy buckets down the side here so I can refer to them. And if we click across to schedule, this is where we can see our tasks set out in that calendar view based on their start date and their due date. So I highly recommend that you go through and add labels to your cards because they can be so helpful as a visual indicator of tasks that are related and can also be used to filter and help you find tasks.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.